At $0, the world is a hallway of locked doors, and every one of them has a bill taped to the front. By 10 million, the doors open before you knock, and nobody ever explains what happened in between. The doors do not swing open all at once. They open one number at a time, quietly, usually when you are not looking. Here's the part nobody tells you. Most of what money changes is not what you can buy, it is what stops happening to you. The emergencies get smaller, the waiting gets shorter, and the word no gets cheaper to say. The world starts handing you the benefit of the doubt it used to make you earn twice. This is a map of that hallway, from 0 to 10 million, one door at a time. Each level we track 3 things: what finally opens, what stays locked, and the trap that keeps people frozen on that floor. This is not a get-rich scheme, and it is not financial advice. It is a map of access. The people who climb fastest can usually see the next door before they are holding the key. Once you can see the doors, you stop blaming yourself for the ones that were never open to begin with. Money is not a scoreboard. It is a ring of keys, and every key is quieter than the trophy people think they are chasing. The first key is the hardest, because at the bottom, you are not buying things. You are buying time you do not have. So let's start on the floor almost everyone begins on, and almost nobody describes honestly. At 0, you do not have a money problem, you have a time problem. Every emergency arrives before you are ready, because there is no buffer between you and the next surprise. The tire blows, the tooth cracks, the shift gets cut, and each one becomes a crisis instead of an errand. You pay the bill that is loudest, not the one that is smartest, because survival leaves no room for strategy. The card gets declined at the counter, the line stares, and the world quietly files you under risk. Doors do not just stay closed here, you stop walking up to them because you already know the answer. The hidden mechanism is brutal and simple. No cushion means no time, and no time means worse decisions. Scarcity does not just empty your wallet, it narrows your thinking down to the next 48 hours. The trap is believing this floor is permanent, that it is a verdict on who you are instead of where you are. Is not. The bottom is a starting line the world disguises as a ceiling. The only move at 0 is unglamorous. Stop the bleeding and buy back the first hour of breathing room. Not a budget, not a 5-year plan, just one small buffer between you and the next emergency. Because the first dollar that is not already spoken for is the first door you have ever owned the key to. $1,000 does not change your life. It changes your nervous system. The panic that used to arrive instantly now arrives slower, and that delay is the first thing money ever buys you. A flat tire becomes annoying instead of catastrophic, and a slow week becomes a problem you can absorb. You can finally turn down the shift that was not worth it, or the job that treated you like you were disposable. Nobody outside notices this level. The world treats you the same at $1,000 as it did at 0. Do you notice? Because the low hum of dread that lived under everything gets a little quieter. The mechanism is that a buffer converts emergencies into inconveniences, and inconveniences do not run your life. For the first time, a surprise does not automatically become a disaster, and that changes how you carry yourself. The trap at this level is spending the relief the second it shows up, treating the cushion like a reward. You earned breathing room, so you exhale, and the $1,000 quietly leaks back out the way it came in. The move is boring on purpose. Protect the cushion like oxygen and make refilling it automatic, not a decision. Because a buffer you have to defend by willpower every month is a buffer you will eventually lose. Guard this first, and the next door, the one with real choices behind it, comes into view. $10,000 buys you a word you could never quite afford before. No. No to the apartment with the landlord who never fixes anything. No to the job you stayed in only for the check. No to the relationship you kept because leaving was a financial problem, not just an emotional one. For the first time, you have options, and options quietly rewrite how every negotiation goes. You ask for the raise differently when you could survive a no, and people can hear that in your voice. The world registers it too. You stop looking cornered, and cornered is a smell people respond to. The mechanism is leverage. A little liquidity means you can walk, and being able to walk changes the whole conversation. Money at this level is not for spending. It is runway, the distance you can travel before you are forced to land. The trap is mistaking options for freedom and burning the runway on a nicer lifestyle instead of a longer one. A financed upgrade feels like progress, but it quietly shortens the runway you just fought to build. The move is to turn breathing room into machinery. Skills, a side income, anything that makes the next 10,000 easier. Spend the runway on things that produce more runway, and the climb stops feeling like luck. Because the goal was never $10,000, it was the version of you who negotiates without fear. At 50,000, misfortune becomes a bill instead of a catastrophe. The medical surprise, the broken transmission, the gap between jobs, handled and absorbed without a spiral. You stop living one bad event away from the bottom, and that single fact rearranges how you sleep. The world extends you its first small trust. Better rates, easier approvals, fewer deposits held over your head. It is not respect yet, it is the system noticing you are less likely to fall and pricing you accordingly. The mechanism is a real shock absorber, enough that one disaster cannot undo years of progress. Risk stops being a threat to your survival and starts being a tool you can use on purpose. The trap at 50,000 is comfort, because comfort is where discipline quietly goes to die. The lifestyle creeps up to meet the cushion, and the gap you worked for closes without you deciding to close it. The move is to keep your life smaller than your means and let the distance between them grow. Every dollar of that gap is a future option you are buying for a version of you who will need it. Comfort is not the enemy. Comfort you stop noticing is. Hold the line here, and money stops being about safety and starts being about access. At 100,000, the world stops treating you like a risk and starts treating you like a bet worth making. Banks lean in, landlords relax, and people you barely know assume you are competent before you prove anything. Doors locked by suspicion swing open, not because you changed, but because your number vouches for you. You get the benefit of the doubt you used to earn twice, and you get it before you walk in the room. Mechanism is signaling. Money reads as reliability, and institutions are built to chase whatever looks reliable. 100,000 says quietly, "This person is unlikely to disappear," and the world rewards that sentence. The trap is believing the bank's respect is the same thing as your worth, and spending to keep looking the part. This is where people buy the watch, the car, the address, financing a signal instead of owning the thing it points to. The move is to use the credibility without being impressed by it, and to point it at assets, not appearances. Borrow against the trust to build something that pays you, not to decorate the version of you other people see. Because a signal with nothing behind it is the most expensive thing you can buy at this level. The respect is real, but it is rented, and the rent is paid in everything you do not invest. Keep your head here, and the next floor stops being about looking credible and starts being about being early. $500,000 does not buy luxury, it buys earlier information. You start ending up in rooms you were not invited to before, next to people who hear about things first. Opportunities arrive as quiet conversations instead of advertisements, before the rest of the market sees them. People bring you deals now because capital attracts the people who need it, and they find you first. The world's treatment shifts from "can he be trusted" to "is he interested?" And that is a different kind of door. The mechanism is the network. Money pulls you into circles where information moves faster than the news. At this level, the edge is not working harder. It is hearing the thing a week before everyone else reacts. The trap is buying the lifestyle of the rich before you have bought the freedom, the least look that eats the lead. It is tempting to spend $500,000 looking like $5, and that trade sells your head start for applause. The move is to choose the rooms that improve your decisions, not the ones that improve your image. Proximity to better thinking compounds faster than proximity to nicer things ever will. Spend on access to people who are further than you, and let the status wait until it is boring to you. Hold that, and you reach the floor where the paycheck finally lets go of your throat. $1 million is the first time I can walk away stops being a bluff. Survival detaches from the next paycheck, and once it does, fear stops quietly making your decisions. You can take the risk, wait for the right thing, or sit out the bad deal you would have grabbed at 50,000. The world senses it. People negotiate differently with someone who clearly does not need the room to say yes. Not needing it is the most attractive thing you can bring into a negotiation, and it cannot be faked for long. The mechanism is simple. Assets now throw off enough that you are no longer renting your time out to survive. Your money starts working a shift you do not have to show up for, and that is the real definition of this level. But the trap at $1 million is sneaky. You can retire your ambition mentally years before it makes any sense. The freedom feels like the finish line, so you coast, and coasting at $1 million quietly becomes drifting. The opposite trap is clutching it so tightly out of fear that you never actually use the leverage. The move is to make the freedom productive, to point the walkaway power at bigger, slower, better bets. Freedom you never spend on anything meaningful is just a more comfortable cage with the door left open. You get well here, and you arrive at the last floor where the doors open before you knock. At 10 million, the doors open before you knock, and that is exactly when it gets dangerous. Access stops being something you chase and becomes something arranged, quietly, around you, by other people. The right introductions arrive through the right channels, and good opportunities find you before they are public. People manage their way into your orbit so smoothly that it feels like coincidence, and it almost never is. Money has bought the two things it can never make more of: time and privacy from the people who want yours. The mechanism is curation. At this level, the whole world around you is filtered, and nothing reaches you by accident. That is the gift and the trap in one sentence, because a filtered world slowly stops telling you the truth. The real trap at 10 million is mistaking access for meaning and letting the portfolio become the person. When every door opens, the hardest skill becomes remembering which rooms you actually wanted to be in. The move is to keep the person larger than the portfolio and to protect the things money cannot refund. Your time, your name, and the few people who knew you before the doors started opening on their own. Because the number can buy almost everything, which is exactly why it can quietly cost you the things it cannot. And that is the whole hallway, from a floor of locked doors to a floor where you choose which ones to ignore. So here is the whole climb in one breath, the way it actually feels from the inside. At 0, every emergency arrives before you are ready, and the doors all have bills taped to them. At 1,000, the panic just slows down, and you learn that the first thing money buys is delay. At 10,000, you can finally say no, and the word changes every negotiation you walk into. At 50,000, bad luck becomes a bill, and you stop sleeping one event from the bottom. At 100,000, the world stops pricing you as a risk and starts treating you like a bet worth making. At 500,000, you hear things earlier, and the edge becomes information instead of effort. At 1,000,000, I can walk away stops being a bluff, and fear stops driving the car. At 10 million, the doors open before you knock, and the test becomes which ones you are wise enough to leave shut. The number never changed what you were worth. It changed what stopped happening to you. Fewer emergencies, shorter waits, cheaper no's, and a world that hands you the benefit of the doubt sooner. So do not chase the pile of cash, chase the doors, and notice which one you are standing in front of right now. Build the money and build the clarity to use it, because money with no clarity just unlocks faster mistakes. The hallway is real, and you are already in it.